Good evening, everyone. Or should I say, good evening, East Brunswick community. There you go. First of all, on behalf of the Board of Education and the administrative team, I want to thank you for coming out tonight. I know it's not the most favorable night. I looked at the temperature of my car coming over from the office when I saw 33 degrees. I thought, oh, it's chilly tonight, so I appreciate you being here. Behind me is kind of the theme of this school year. I felt like this school year, as we opened schools, this was really the first opportunity for us to return to some sort of normalcy after a global pandemic. And I know many people in the audience, with yourselves, your family, your children, with us dealt with that. So I want to start the night with a quote. It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. And that's what I want to talk about for a few minutes. Everybody knows this is your high school. This is the East Brunswick High School. So what you see is a facility that possibly your children have already been through, and maybe they're on to a career because of the work that was done here and because of the high quality of professionals that work here. Maybe your child is currently here. Maybe you have a child who's going to come here in the future. And maybe you don't have any children at all, but you reside in East Brunswick, but this still is the hub of East Brunswick Public Schools. As an administrative team, we see it a little differently. We get to see it day in and day out and some of its flaws. And that's what we want to talk about tonight, because we see it as a facility that is in need of attention or replacement. So this building started its life in 1957. But what I want to talk to you about tonight over the next probably 25 minutes is a very encapsulated period of time. The Board of Education started investing in discussions about the high school, its future, what options were available to the community, to the public, before the pandemic. Then March of 2020, we abruptly shut down. Everything that we've been talking about got shelved. It didn't get put away in a dark corner somewhere, but it just wasn't our priority. Then as we started to return, we started to revisit all of the issues that we had with the high school. And it became important at that point for the board and for the administration to really start discussing what options were available to us and the timeline it would take to accomplish certain things. So I want to set the expectations very clear tonight. I know there's been discussion online about what is the impact to a homeowner in East Brunswick for building a new high school or renovating the high school. So I did publicly state two numbers that the architects gave us with regard to the scope. So let me talk about the renovation first. The renovation number I put out publicly was $280 million. That was a very, very broad, very conservative estimate. What that did not include was some things we're going to talk about later in this presentation, that if you have children that go to the high school that you know were impacting their education back in October when we had to shut this facility down for 7 consecutive days because of a water main break under a hallway. So that's an issue that we did not know about prior to the estimation for renovation. We also have subsequently become aware that the majority of the roofing system in the high school is made from wooden trusses. And so any renovation, a complete renovation to this existing facility would mean taking those structures off too. Then we go to the other extreme. What would a new high school cost? Again, very broad, very conservative, all-in numbers, $480 million. But let me talk to you for a few minutes about what was in that number. In $480 million, which again is a very broad estimate, was the construction of a new facility. It was the remediation of this existing school, whatever we find in here that needs to be taken care of, and then the demolition of this facility. Then that also included renovating and replacing athletic fields, and you'll see from some diagrams we'll show you in a few minutes about why that would be necessary. And it also provided some contingency to redo or to reroute traffic onto the site if we had to do any work to any county roads that we would be required to undertake and pay for. So the purpose of tonight is to gather information from you. My presentation will conclude, and I'm going to ask you to go to our cafeteria, where our talented administrators will offer tours of the building if you want to take a walk around. But we will have, and I'll repeat this at the end, we'll have stations with QR codes, and you'll be able to provide feedback for us on academics, athletics, arts, and other considerations. We want to turnkey that information and figure out what you want. This is our broader outreach from an ad hoc committee that was formed by the board last school year, met throughout the school year, and concluded their work in June. So at its initial construction, this is the footprint of East Brunswick High School, built on a campus or a California kind of campus platform. And there's some members of this audience that went to school here during many variations of the high school and know well that, you know, there are walkways that were external to many of the facilities. Then in 1969, there were additions to the building, and you can see some of the pieces starting to fill in. And then we get to our current environment, and you can see how expanded that footprint is. Now, I would like to ask Dr. Michael Vinella, who's principal of the high school, who's here with me tonight, to really talk about the logistics of this building and the operational issues that he and his administrative team encounter all the time with this facility. Dr. Vinella?
Thank you, Dr. Valeski, and thank you those that came out this evening. From a practical sense, I think it starts, many of you that if you do come to the school, before you even enter the building, you experience getting on campus. Trying to get on campus in the morning can be a challenge. There's two ways in, and sometimes we have students rushing to get to those first period classes on time. So that starts it. And then if you take a look at the facility, look at where you're in right now. You are in a vintage auditorium. Really from when this was built, this is still here. Unfortunately, you can't always have class meetings. We can't fit students anywhere in the building together to have that type of a class meeting. If we have events within here, a lot of times they can't fit. They go over to Hammersholt to have that experience on there. Our cafeteria right now, and you're going to go in there in a little bit, we'll put 700 kids in there in one lunch period. And it's a rush to get through. I talk to kids every day, and that rush to get through there, 3 lunch periods, about 700 kids each lunch period. It would be fantastic to be able to have dual cafeterias where you have a unit lunch where all students could eat at the same time. You'd be able to run clubs and activities there and be able to serve those students in a manner where they could get their food, sit down, eat it, and then get to where they need to be. If you do go on the tours and walk the halls, you will see hallways that are pretty narrow. If you ever have the opportunity to be in here during the course of the day, or you have a student that goes here, just ask them what it means to get from 1600s hall to 2100s hall and get through that terminal, where you have hundreds of kids shoulder to shoulder banging to get through to that next class and get there on time within that 5 minutes. That's also a big challenge. Also, if you have the opportunity, you'll notice the gyms at the far side. Yes, we do have a couple gyms, but now that it's cold out and everybody's moved in for phys ed, we're looking for space for those classes to take place and work. Take a look at the classrooms. As Dr. Valeski said, I think it was 1959, you said, Dr. Valeski?
1957.
57? Pedagogy has changed a little bit since then. You know, that sage on the stage, that teacher that just talks out in the front of the room, that's not how learning takes place. It's a collaborative atmosphere. It's a student-centered learning environment. These rooms are tough with those single desks. Those desks and rows that maybe you and I may remember, that's not how learning is taking place right now. We are empowering the students to be the center of the learning environment, and this infrastructure really does not support that. There is one place that Dr. Valeski and the Board of Education was very kind to redo, and that was our media center, where we created a flex space up top there. That is a place where people love to go because it is very conducive to the learning that takes place now. And then the opportunities for on this stage, a lot of these, they build stage sets. The opportunity for collaboration across departments is where curriculum and learning is going. And make no bones about it, we have one of the best staffs in the state of New Jersey. I'm really honored to work with them, and they make excellence come alive. But they could do so much better. Think about it. If they had the opportunity for a woodshop to be able to connect it directly to this, that could do their work, but then could also collaborate with the drama club to make that come alive. And there's that co-work, that teamwork. If you take a look at those new standards that they're requiring us to teach, this current learning environment is not conducive to that. And I think the vision that Dr. Valeski and the Board of Education had really excites me because it's going to provide an opportunity for our teachers to do what they do best, and that's make excellence come alive and be able to have a conducive learning environment for our students to have a leg up when they get to the next level, no matter what they do after high school. So those are just a couple things, Dr. Valeski.
Thanks, Dr. Vinella. I mentioned earlier we can't avoid the situation that happened here at the high school back in October, but these are, in the top left corner, just a preliminary picture before a lot of the excavation was actually accomplished. There was basically 18 inches from each of those corridor walls and about 6.5 to 7 feet deep, a pit that was excavated to get down to the broken water main in the high school. And these some other infrastructure issues. The black piping in the lower left picture was piping that was installed, and that's actually in a custodial closet. But you know, these are some of the issues that we're dealing with some of the structure of the high school and some of the infrastructure that's under the building. One of the things I need to mention is we did do some scoping, some ground penetrating radar to find out where pipes were, and we discovered that a lot of the additions to this high school were placed right on top of utilities. So they poured a concrete slab and built the structure, and a water and sewer infrastructure is under those poured slabs. So repairing them means tearing them up. So we just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. So we talked to the architects that we're working with and said, give us some pictures of some spaces so the community, when they come to this event tonight, they can envision what the possibilities might be. I want to make sure that I'm really clear. We haven't designed anything. This is really something from our architects, from projects they've done to showcase some of the spaces. So Dr. Vinella, I know that you have been working with your student body over at least the 10 years that I've known you and getting their feedback. So what are some of the things that your students share with you?
Just talked to some of our student leaders today about this, and it was pretty interesting. Some of the simplistic stuff is just you go into some of these classes, how dark and dingy it is. Light. Getting light into those areas where learning takes place is a simplistic thing. The opportunity to have flexible space. We have piloted in some areas some classrooms upstairs, and it has been a hit. But with this flexible seating and collaborative learning environment, but they are also telling us that when they go in there, there's a different level of learning that takes place. There's a different level of motivation from within there. They talk to us about the cafeteria and the tightness of being inside that cafeteria. They talk about, those are our science labs, the ability to be able to work Right now, we have a limited number of students that we could put in a science lab based on the stations that we have. That limits the number of classes or number of sections that we have to have. We have to increase those number of sections with staff because of those limitations as well. These flexible spaces are similar to what I mentioned up in the media center. Okay, as we get started, we work in an 82-minute block. We have an A/B schedule, four classes a day. And they changed. So an 82-minute block is a great opportunity, and our staff has embraced this to move forward to really make, as I talked about, that student-centered learning and the opportunity for students to, whether it's project-based learning or any other type of pedagogy they use, but they have the opportunity for that classroom to become flexible. Depending on what lesson is taught that day, that classroom can become mobile in order to, if we're in groups of 3, in groups of 2, in groups of 6, they have the opportunity to work in that. So that teacher can set that table, can set that expectations, and then those students can get to work collaboratively within there. It's safe. If you take a look at, even with the seating, and we have some of this right now, backpacks go right underneath. It maximizes space. And it really provides an opportunity for students to be inquisitive, explore, and really collaboratively work to build those skills that they need to have a bright future.
Thanks, Dr. Vinella. Actually, I wanted to mention that, and I want to thank Mr. Giuliano, who's our Assistant Superintendent for Business and Facilities. The chairs you notice here are a product called Einstein chairs. So these chairs are designed for students to sit in multiple ways. And they can sit traditionally, they can sit backwards, they can sit on the back of the chair, they can straddle them. And we actually have deployed them throughout a variety of classrooms. We call them 21st century classrooms throughout the district. But when we moved our 7th grade to Churchill and put up the temporary classroom units behind Churchill, every single classroom is equipped with this type of furniture in those units. And our students love it, and the staff love it. So this is something that we've been experimenting with, and it's been kind of this progression throughout the district about looking at products that we can incorporate into our flagship school, the high school, if we ever renovated or replaced it. And of course, the cafeteria. Dr. Vinella, did you want to talk about block scheduling, or did you mention that?
So with block scheduling in the cafeteria, as I said before, there's three periods, about 35 minutes on average, where we serve 700 students. It's the one cafeteria. There's 3 sections. They go in. There's a few serving lines. They get it done. The vision is that middle period. If the vision is moving towards 2 cafeterias, would have the opportunity for a unit lunch to maximize instructional time, but it would also give a period during the middle of the day to build community within the school. An opportunity, if you could run a unit lunch within the school, you would have the opportunity for clubs to meet during that time. Kids that don't get a chance to be connected because they have to go to work after school, or maybe they're involved in something else, or have to watch a sibling, they have the opportunity now during that period to engage and be part of the school community. It also provides an opportunity for extra help to take place, for those students that can't get here before or after school to be able to meet with a teacher at that point in time. So having that dual cafeteria not only would be able to be effective for our arts department, but our athletic department with activities that go on after the school day, but it really would be beneficial to serving those 2,100 students during the course of the day, for them to be able to eat, but also be able to have the opportunity to engage and be part of the school community. And one of the things we know today, and I could tell you, having, I think this is my 12th year as the principal here, now more than ever, kids need to feel connected. Okay, it's tough being a teenager today. That opportunity for them to be involved, for this type of a system to take place in a block schedule. Right now, the way it works with our block schedule, you have 4 periods. You go to blocks. You go to block 1 and block 2. Once you go to block 3 with this system right now, you have 3 choices of lunch. You go to block 1, go to block 2, then you go to lunch, and then you go back for your full block 3. If you have B lunch, you go to block 1, you go to block 2, you go to the first half of block 3, you go to lunch, and then you go back to block 3 for the second half of that period. If you have lunch C, you go to block 1, you go to block 2, and then you don't eat until fully after block 3. You eat and then you go to your last block class for the last 82 minutes of the day. So I think a unit one lunch one would be efficient, I think monetarily and serving wise, but 2, it could create a sense of community here for some kids that really need it, to become a sense of belonging and to bridge out. You never know what a student is going to be motivated by until they try it. And you never know, going to a coding club, going to an esports team, or going to our IPA, or whatever it is, they have the opportunity to experience that, and several kids just thrive off of that. So I think the opportunity for the lunchroom to do this would be efficient. I think monetarily, I think it would be more productive for our students, and it also help to create that middle period or sense of belonging and support that our students need.
Thanks, Dr. Vinella. So one of the things, too, I wanted to mention as we're at this juncture is the realization that not every child, not every student is bound for college post-high school. They may be at some point in time, but they may take a non-traditional path to get there. As the cost of education increases, students and families are looking for options, and sometimes even companies will foot the bill of an education if you become a member of their workforce. So as Dr. Vinella was talking about esports, one of the things I wanted to mention is imagine a robotics room. We don't have that right now. We don't have a carve-out space for our robotics team to actually work from. They take other spaces. But imagine a robotics room that was also supported by a room that could teach our students about electrical work, mechanical work, and as Dr. Vinella mentioned earlier, woodworking, stage production. All of those go hand in hand with building trade skills that students could take as a life skill. All of us know it. Property owners, homeowners, how long do you wait for a contractor to come to your house? Sometimes it's a project you need to take on yourself. So that is part of the vision of what we're talking about with revitalization of the high school or replacing the high school. So along these lines, I wanted to be very transparent about how we've looked at this planning process. This is internally as administrators. We've looked at the space, what kinds of spaces we are going to need for both instruction and non-instructional uses. We've looked at how they are placed together, how they work together, how they function and support each other. We want to look at integration. So often when you look at a renovation to a school or look at new school construction, you put a lot of features into a classroom and they overlap. You spend a lot of money on redundancy. So that's one of the things that we're conscious of, that now technology and systems are designed to integrate together. So it makes sense to look at this in a new way so that we don't have that redundancy. Noise, acoustical impacts to the rooms and the spaces that we utilize is really important. And then the environment. We often overlook how important lighting is. I mean, take this room, for example, not just the stage lighting, but just the ambient lighting in the room. You know, it's how it affects how people behave. It affects how they feel. And daylighting becomes part of that. Temperature control, and most importantly, ventilation, especially all of the things that we learned during the pandemic, and applying those to new systems we put in, or either for renovation or replacement of school. And lastly is security. You know, I stand before you very proud to be superintendent of a school district, and I think we have the absolute best school security force in this state. And yeah, you can applaud for that. The ladies and gentlemen who run the department and work in the department are retired professionals, every single one of them. And they are the best of the best. And any new school, any new renovation that we do needs to be looked at on a fresh, clean piece of paper in terms of how we deploy security. And one of the things that this building does create issues for is its many twists and turns and hallways and blind spots. It is secure, but it takes more people to do it that way than if you have clean lines of sight. So let's talk about renovation. Is a renovation possible? Absolutely. But if you look at the section in the top left, that is the proposed addition just for 9th grade, moving 9th grade to the high school. And that's something the board had decided that this would be the culmination of this. We would make this a 9 through 12 facility. That was the reason for the grade level reconfiguration that led to 7th grade moving to Churchill and all of our elementaries moving to K4. That gave us capacity in the elementary schools, but it also meant at some point in the near future, the 9th grade would become part of the high school campus. So again, I'm going to take it back out just a second. I just want you to take in the footprint, the existing building with that addition on it, and what that does not include is any other additions to the high school that would be necessary to accommodate student growth for the future. That is simply moving the 9th grade here. And then down below, you can see kind of an elevation. And the architects can make it look nice. They can make it look like it's part of the existing facility. This is proposed as a 2-story addition, but the footprint of the school is the one thing I wanted to leave you an impression with right now. And now here's what we proposed to the ad hoc committee. The architect had proposed that a new school could be built down towards Summerhill Road on where we have our soccer fields now, and then actually reclaim the site where the school is as athletic fields. If you can see my pointer, this area right here is about where the existing school is right now. This would be moving the school down, replacing all of these fields, and making all the athletic facilities contiguous. One thing I wanted to mention was all the fields to the left of my pointer remain. We're investing money in a new softball and field hockey complex. That is down here. So this would be where the new addition would be. Smaller footprint, more energy efficient, brand new building. And for the first time, we just asked the architects to, and this, by the way, this hasn't been designed. This is simply lines drawn to give it some kind of scale, but just so we can see the footprint. But I thought it was important for this community to see what conceptually the elevation or side view could look like. And you notice right away, this is not a single-story building. This is a 4-story building on that footprint. So smaller footprint, going up higher, and that leads to some other efficiencies that we'll talk about. So as we talked at the opening of this, everyone's concerned about what is the cost to build. So I want to restate what I said at the opening. Tonight is information gathering. We owe this community a cost of either the renovation or a new school, whatever way the board decides to move. Your input tonight is extremely important. That information is going to be distilled within the next 3 weeks. Before we get to the new calendar year, we will be transparent about what we collect tonight. It will be shared with the community. We'll have a spot on our website where you'll actually get to see what people tonight said, how they gave their feedback. What's really important is we have to give this information back to our architects so they can refine a plan. We actually have 2 consecutive objectives we have to accomplish. On the East Brunswick side, administratively, we have to, based on your input, refine our educational program. Then that educational program drives a schematic design that the architect puts together, and then they can generate a more refined cost. The one piece that we do not know yet is what money might be available from the state. And so that has to be factored in. So sometime in this school year, probably later in the late spring, we are hoping to provide some estimates for the community about what impacts might be. But I ask the community, as you walk around tonight and you give your feedback, not just the cost of a facility, but what about the cost to operate any facility over 30 years? Whether you renovate this school and deal with a larger footprint or build new. What's that cost to operate for the community? What's the cost to maintain it? The value of occupancy, Dr. Vinella touched on this. What's the value, the intrinsic value that people get from renovated spaces or brand new spaces? How does it make them feel about their day, about their experience in the high school? How does it impact them as individuals? How does it impact their educational performance? For everyone who owns property or a house in East Brunswick, undoubtedly an improvement at the high school, no matter which way the board or the community wants to go, is going to generate increased potential value for every single homeowner. And then I'm going to ask you to consider, what's the cost of doing nothing? If we continue to defer this decision, what's the cost of not doing something? Because there is a cost to that. And as you've seen with the repair to the high school, the cost of that repair wasn't just monetary. It was 7 days that students weren't in school. So what's the future? Well, in order to move this project along, there would have to be a referendum, and that would have to be approved by the Board of Education. And a referendum is really a vote that is scheduled by the board on a facilities proposal, such as a high school. But there are a lot of other approvals that the board would have to get to do a referendum. And referenda can only be held on certain statutory dates, and they're listed here. There are 5 of them. The fourth Tuesday in January, second Tuesday in March, last Tuesday in September, first Tuesday in November, or the second Tuesday in December. And all of this referendum stuff and all of this planning is, the Board of Education would make decisions about that. But we're also conscious that we're partners with East Brunswick Township and the elected officials that operate the township. So a lot of these conversations and this will become part of a larger dialogue that will involve the township. And I appreciate Mayor Cohen, and I saw Council President McAvoy here, being here tonight. So the timeline. This is by April of 2024. We hope to have a revised program based on tonight's input before the Board of Education. By November 1st, 2024, we're anticipating the architect could complete their submission to the Department of Education. The Department of Education takes anywhere from 8 to 10 months to review projects of this scope. And so we would not be able to move to a referendum until probably forecasted November of 2025. So we're talking about 2 years from now. That might be accelerated slightly, but I wouldn't count on that. There's a lot of work to do, and that's what I want to leave you with tonight, is there has not been this preconceived plan by the Board of Education to move in a direction that the community doesn't want to move. They want your input. And the leadership of our Board of Education has been passionate about that. The membership of the Board of Education has been passionate about that. So tonight is your opportunity to give that to us, okay? So what's next? We are going to conclude in here. We have 4 stations in the cafeteria with QR codes. You can use your smartphone, scan the QR code, it opens a form for you. We have some questions that we would like you to answer, and we have some free-form opportunities. QR codes are posted by some plans of the building. They're also on tables spread out behind a very lovely arrangement of food that has been provided tonight by East Brunswick Education Association. So thank you to them and Dr. Dana Zambicki for providing that through their Pride Grant. Just thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your voice. Thank you for giving us some guidance to make these next steps. We want to do things that represent your wishes, your wills, and what you can support in the future, because ultimately you will decide this. This will go to a referendum vote, and you will cast a ballot deciding whether or not we do anything with this high school, we renovate it, or we replace it. So thank you very much for your attention tonight. I appreciate it. We'll see you in the cafeteria.